My dream is actually physically impossible for me. I know some people who probably are rolling their eyes and think I'm crazy. So yesterday I got some bad news from the doctor. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
2.5. Hey guys, right now I can celebrate life. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm sorry I look so bad. I wasn't planning on doing a video, but I was just sitting here praying and talking with the Lord and just processing through some news that I got yesterday at my doctor's appointment, and really realized I just kind of needed to talk to you guys and process through this with you. If you're one of the faithful few that are subscribed, you know that I have a son and he's almost a year old, and with him I tried an all-natural vaginal birth and it ended up in a Caesarean that later got infected. My doctor affirmed me yesterday. He was like, that was like worst case scenario. And I was kind of just like, yeah, it really was. You know, I got to the pushing part and was pushing and pushing and pushing for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and he got stuck. My pelvic bone isn't shaped for a child to fit through. My original doctor that birthed my son, you know, explained this to me. I didn't really believe her because I had heard all this stuff from these natural birth hippies that said, you know, it's impossible for a baby to not fit through your pelvis. And that's been something that I've been working through this whole last year of just emotionally carrying that burden of, was I told lies or not? I was able to kind of get a second opinion yesterday. I thought I was gonna have to like go to a different practice, but he really just helped me understand that like my pelvis is shaped so that if I got the birth I wanted, you know, a natural vaginal birth, I would have died. And the child would have been stuck and would have died as well. And there's just no way around that. There's no real fix. People can say all day long, you know, that's not the truth, but until they understand, you know, I pushed him so hard, trying to push him out, trying to fit him through my pelvis. I was pushing so hard that I popped blood vessels all along my face, all right here, because I was just pushing so hard and I could not feel any progress. They were seeing no progress, and finally the doctor really stuck herself down in me and felt around, and he was stuck on bone. You know, some women, their bone structure actually changes after birth because the baby pushed on their pelvis and it changed the situation. Sorry, my son's toy is making a noise over there, whatever. But my pelvis is just, I forget what it's called, but it's like actually misshapen. So coming to grips with that and praying through the Lord, like, you've given me this desire since I was a little girl to have so many children. Like, I remember, you know, wasn't even 10 yet, and I told my mom, I'm gonna have 25 kids. I wanna have 30 kids. I wanna have a lot of kids. I've always felt the call to have a big family. That was something that I told my husband on our first date, like, just beware, don't fall in love with me if you're not okay with having a very big family, because it's just probably one of the biggest truths for me that has lasted and stood the test of time. You know, sometimes you go through phases and you're like, I want to be an artist when I grow up, or I want to be a ballerina. Well, for me, it has always been, I want to be a mom that has a lot of kids, and I want to grow and raise a big family that loves the Lord. And so that's a wonderful call, and it is just hard knowing that it is physically impossible for me. You know, they usually say try not to have more than 3 C-sections. The doctor was telling me yesterday he gets reary around the 5th C-section. He doesn't feel very comfortable with it. And that's about when statistically it rises from a 0.5% of having a uterine abruption to like 6% or something like that. You know, of course, every single time you have a C-section, your risk of uterine abruption is very high. And if you don't know, that risks the mother's life and the child's life. I just struggle. I don't understand, you know, why he would give me these desires for a large family if it's not physically possible, except for the fact that we also, my husband and I, feel called towards adoption, whether that's fostering or international adoption or stateside adoption, whatever it is, we feel the call and we would love to do that. But our little tiny faith, you know, we say, well, we don't even have the money, you know, right now to live like we want to live. How will we ever afford adoption? My husband, if you don't know, is a pastor, and of course we live, you know, basically month to month. Ministers shouldn't and don't make a lot of money usually. Oh, you know what? I've been baking cupcakes for my son's birthday party tomorrow. I need to pull them out of the oven. Give me 1 second. Okay, cupcakes saved. So I just struggle. I wrote down, why do I have such a deeply ingrained desire for lots and lots of babies if it's not physically possible? Why would you know, give me the desire to make babies if I would have died if it wasn't for modern medicine and my child would have died. Is that some ingrained desire, actual heaven? I feel like that's a stretch. But I mean, if I was born 100 years prior, I would not be living past labor. And so it's something that I struggle with. And the doctor really encouraged me to just be grateful that I'm alive and to be grateful that my son is alive, which is true. Yes, grateful for modern medicine, grateful for the opportunity to make babies, to live this day, you know, to be pregnant again, praise the Lord. And yet, I guess I need to look at it this way. My inability to physically produce babies, or a large number, a large family, like we've always dreamed, we've always said like at least 7. My inability, you know, requires me to get down on my knees and to be wholly, completely dependent on the Lord and His provision through adoption, and just planning on that, starting saving now. So yeah, I'm just processing through that and mourning it. And it's not this cut and dry, easy thing. If you know anything about adoption, the more children you have, the harder it is to be accepted by certain countries because they see you as already a maxed out family if you have 3 kids or whatever. And so obviously I'm due with number 2. You know, my C-section clock is ticking. You know, I'm now gonna have used up 2 of my C-section uses. I know some people who probably are rolling their eyes and think I'm crazy. You know, you don't even know what it's like to have 2 kids. Why are you wanting to have a lot of kids? But I know it's a call over my life, and there's no doubt about that. If I was able to vaginally birth a bunch of children, there'd be no limit on me. That would just give me a feeling of safety. At least I know that my dream is possible. But because my dream is actually physically impossible for me, it's just something to be mourned. It is definitely something that I'm mourning and that my husband and I are crying through and talking through. It's not like we just want biological kids. That's not even like our thing, but it just makes it easier to see how the dream would be possible. I really was kind of hoping to somehow work out a way to try a VBAC. If you don't know, a VBAC is vaginal birth after Caesarean. And if I was able to do a VBAC, I would be able to, you know, then it would be physically possible if I could keep having vaginal births to
make as many babies as we want to.
Which again, this probably sounds so silly, but just knowing that there's a physical limit on me freaks me out. It's like now I really have to trust the Lord. So yeah, I know I sound crazy, but this is just really hard for me. I just have always dreamed about that and dreamed about labor as this beautiful process where we are just so united. And I was reading online about how they say, you know, moms tend to be less emotionally connected to their baby after a C-section than vaginal birth moms, and, you know, just feeling like I'm missing out on something. And I know it's not much, and I know it's, you know, a part of the curse. Like, it's painful, it's not fun. But at the same time, I still do feel like I'm missing out on something. I feel limited. And I know that the Lord often calls those who are limited. I mean, look at Moses. So it's 2 Corinthians 12, 9 through 11. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in my weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." Whew, I'm sorry. That just hit me hard. So yes, I'm going to wrap this up because clearly I'm an emotional wreck and I've cried through way too many of my YouTube videos regarding birth and labor. And I look like a crack addict. I'm going to go ice some cupcakes. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and that you stay faithful. Comment down below if you've watched this video because I'm going to be now super insecure. What led you to this video, whatever. And if you can relate in any way, I love you guys so much. Y'all have a good one. Bye.